Chapter 7. Without opening her eyes, Astrid asked, "How far do you want me to take this?" "As far as she'll let you. She's strong. Be stronger." Tasha ignored the growing chill and kept walking. "Nobody's killing me. I'm inside a mind. You're open, vulnerable. You dropped your shields and let us in. Don't you know about pathways, Tasha? You touch another mind, and the contact forms a path between you, like the one you're walking now." "I'm in a maze, a huge maze." "Well, you've touched a lot of minds in your life, apparently. Every mind you touch formed a pathway. For some reason, this deeply a psychic's mind almost always visualizes that as a maze." Tasha reached a cross path and turned right this time. "You're moving away from the center." "I know. I want the exit. I don't need to see what's at the center." "Don't you?" "No. Even if that's where I want you to be. Especially if that's where you want me to be." So distrustful. "You told me I was being killed. I'm supposed to trust you?" "Look at your hands, Tasha, at your wrists." She looked and saw slashes across both wrists, with bright red blood flowing from the wounds, but there was no pain at all. "It's not real. I'm in Brody's mind." "You're getting weaker. Can't you feel it?" "No." What she felt, what she saw, was green tendrils reaching out from the hedges on either side of her, wrapping her wrists and then slipping free of the bushes. They were warm in this cold place. They gave her strength somehow. She could feel it. Every step is harder than the one before. Your feet seem to weigh 20 pounds each, 30, 50. Her feet did feel heavier, but the bands on her wrists had stopped the flow of blood, stopped her, somehow, from being so easily controlled by that other presence. Tasha wondered, but only briefly. She was pretty sure she knew what the tendrils were, what they represented. It was a surprise, and yet it wasn't. It felt right and made sense. Though she didn't know if Brody was going to agree. Feeling stronger, Tasha followed the path, refusing to stop. "I want out of here. I'll get out of here." "Will you?" "Brody doesn't know, does he?" She asked that in her voice suddenly, and in response she was certain of surprise, of hesitation. "I don't know what you mean." "Of course you do. Or maybe only Duran knows. Maybe you should ask him what I mean." It was getting even easier to walk, step by step, and Tasha realized the voice in her mind, its force and control, could be distracted, maybe even blocked, its hold on her weakened, perhaps even broken. She had a feeling Duran didn't know that. She wondered if he'd be told. "What are you trying to do, Tasha? Do you think I'd let someone like you, someone who doesn't even know how to use her abilities, try to control what's happening here?" "I think you don't want me to dwell on what I've just realized." "And what is that, pray tell?" "This struggle, this war, it isn't only a thing of the physical world, a visible thing. It isn't even that. This is where the real battles are taking place, isn't it?" Tasha slipped around another corner, certain now of where she was heading, of how to get out of the maze, out of Brody's mind. "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you do. We have all the power here, psychics, but we tend to be loners, and that makes us vulnerable to people like Duran, people who would use us. Duran has harnessed your power to do his bidding. He wants mine too. He's testing me, isn't he?" Definite surprise that time. Don't waste my time as well as yours denying it. "He sent you to test me. He wants to know how strong I am. And he isn't psychic, is he? He isn't, and somehow that's what all this is about." Tasha looked at her wrists again, at the warm leafy tendrils wrapping them. No blood, no slashes. Her step was lighter, faster, with nothing weighing her down or holding her back. She turned another corner and could see a break in the hedge not far ahead of her. The exit. "Tasha, are you going to tell him how powerful I really am?" "Why wouldn't I?" "Because you're still psychic, still one of us." "No, I'm not. Not anymore. Not for a long time now." "Did you go willingly, Astrid? Did you join them of your own free will? Of my own free will, more or less. Grim now. Did you sell your soul to them, Astrid? You're out of your depth, Tasha. You may think you can win this, but you can't. None of you can. None of us. There's less damage done if you just give in. You keep telling yourself that, Astrid. Maybe one day you'll actually believe it. Abruptly, the air changed, cold washing over Tasha again, and she realized that Astrid wasn't distracted anymore, that she was reaching out with ferocity, with anger. No, wait, Tasha felt a sudden tug, so powerful it nearly stopped her in her tracks. But then the tendrils around her wrist shot out, one end still holding her and the other finding the exit, and pulling her toward it. Tasha, see you next time, Astrid. Before that other presence could even gather itself to respond, Tasha was whisked around the corner, and everything went dark and still. Tasha, Tasha, Tasha. She opened her eyes slowly, the effort demanding total concentration. Her body felt heavy and possibly tired, and the brightness of the sunlight hurt her eyes. For a moment she couldn't really focus, but finally she did. The sidewalk table at the coffee shop, Brody sitting across from her, leaning toward her, his face intent. She looked at her wrists, at his fingers wrapping them warmly. Yeah, she said, her voice husky. Yeah, that's what I thought they were, your hands. Thank you, Brody. For what? His expression remained intent, and he didn't release her wrists. For saving my life, I think. At least the part of my life that really matters to me. Astrid accepted the handkerchief Duran gave her and held it to her nose, her still bleeding nose. Well, her head was pounding in a way she knew was going to linger, possibly for days. For a moment she wasn't sure how to answer his demand, but Duran wasn't a man to whom silence was an acceptable answer, so she finally said, Remember that thing that happened with Sarah Gallagher and Tucker McKenzie? Of course I do. I think you may have the same sort of problem with Tasha Solomon and Brody. They haven't made it. No, still, that's impossible. He isn't psychic. No, he isn't, is he? Or at least, he wasn't. Astrid held the cloth to her nose and looked at Duran, feeling despite everything a flicker of real enjoyment. That's what makes it all so very interesting. Tasha was somewhat surprised that no one around them seemed to have noticed anything out of the ordinary going on. You didn't make a sound, Brody said, finally releasing her wrists. Just turned about 5 different shades of pale and almost stopped breathing. That's when I grabbed your wrists. She looked at him, still feeling impossibly tired. Did you just read my mind? He looked surprised. Did I? I think you did. Pathways. Maybe they don't just form between psychics. Maybe that's it. Or maybe because I was so deep. I bet they didn't count on that. I bet Duran is not going to be at all pleased, even if it was his idea. She wondered why everything around her, including Brody, seemed to be just slightly out of focus somehow. Was this something the other psychic had thrown at her in those final seconds? Was it because she had been so deep in Brody's mind? Or because she had actually been somewhere else, someplace out of time and space where a psychic would always instinctively go to forge pathways, or look for them? We need to leave, Brody said, right now. Your apartment is closest. Okay. Except there was no way she was going to be able to get up under her own steam, because she didn't have any steam. She wanted to sleep for about a week, and then take a nap. Brody left a few bills on the table, setting his coffee cup on top of them, then came around and more or less lifted her out of her chair. Better, he asked after a moment. I think so. The dizziness had passed, mostly. She thought she could walk, as long as he didn't let go of her at any rate. He kept an arm around her as they walked across the streets to her building. You are definitely reading my mind, she told him. Let's not discuss this until we're in your condo, okay? Right. Civilians. She fished in her shoulder bag that had somehow ended up hanging from her shoulder and produced her key card. Gotta swipe this, and then the code. Yeah, I know. He continued to hold her upright as they reached the front entrance of her building. I just hope security doesn't think I slipped you a Mickey. Slip me a Mickey, that's an old phrase. You like old movies, don't you? I rarely have a chance to watch the newer stuff, Tasha. It'd look better on the security monitors if you swipe the card and enter the code yourself. Can you do that? Of course I can, she managed, though didn't doubt that she might easily appear to be impaired. Brody got them through the door when it buzzed, and as soon as they were in the lobby, the one security guard manning the front desk was on his feet, eyeing them. Hey, Ms. Solomon, he said, are you okay? She peered at him. Stuart. Hey, Stuart, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I got dizzy, so it's a good thing my friend John was with me. Yes, ma'am. Sir, if you wouldn't mind. Not at all. Brody produced an ID card. His driver's license, Tasha thought. She watched the guard study the card carefully. I really am all right, she told him, not drunk or drugged or anything like that, just really tired. I didn't sleep well last night. Stuart handed the card back to Brody, still clearly undecided for a moment, then said, I hope you can get some rest then, Miss Solomon. That is a very good idea. I will do that. Even to herself, Tasha thought she sounded out of it, to say the least, and added what she hoped was a reassuring parting comment. John is going to stay with me, so everything will be just fine. Yes, ma'am. In the elevator, Brody said dryly, bet he's either on the phone or on the computer checking me out as we speak. Former cops are always the most suspicious. Not that I blame him. I'm not entirely sure what happened at the coffee shop, but you really are out of it. He has every reason to worry about you, and to make sure I'm not on the books as a serial killer, rapist, or something. Then I hope your record is clean, she told him seriously. It is. Good. But they often aren't, on the books. Serial killers and rapists. I mean, lots are caught, but lots more fly below the radar until somebody finally realizes what they are. And by then the body count can be really high. She blinked up at him. I used to work for a lawyer. It shows, Brody told her, polite. And you'd know, she heard herself saying, you used to be a lawyer, didn't you? He nodded slowly. You get that out of my mind? I guess, she thought about it. I guess I had to. The elevator doors opened on the 3rd floor, and Brody kept his arm around her all the way down the hallway to her apartment. She managed to unlock her door without his help, which she supposed was a good thing, given that Stuart was probably still watching them. So how did they miss the goon squad the other night? Brody mused. We've never been sure how they get into secure buildings, but they have it down to an art. Magic, she offered. Smoke and mirrors? Maybe so. He opened the door and continued to partially support her as they went inside. Brody paused just a moment in the entrance hall, his free hand slipping into the pocket of his jacket. Tasha felt something. She wasn't sure what it was, but something told her some kind of device had been activated. What did you just do? She asked, dropping her bag and keys on the table. I just jammed the signal, he said. Signal? What signal? The one coming from the cameras the goon squad planted in your apartment before they left. Tasha stepped away from him, suddenly more alert. What? They left cameras? I'll have to check to be sure, but probably they usually do if one of their visits doesn't net them the psychic they're after. But I never saw. They're very small, Tasha. They can be stuck on a wall, at the edge of a picture frame or mirror, under a bookshelf. You have to know what to look for. They've been watching me? They've been watching me? All the time since then? He eyed her. They aren't watching you anymore, I can promise you that. Look, I think you really do need to rest. Why don't you take a nap? It's not even noon, I think. I'm betting you really haven't been sleeping well, not since their visit at least. And after what happened at the coffee shop, you definitely need to rest. I don't think I can. Cameras. I'll check the bedroom for cameras, and you'll see me get rid of them. Then you can rest. I'll stay here, watch TV or something, and reassure the security guard when he shows up in a few minutes to check on you. You think he'll do that? I'll be disappointed if he didn't. I'd be disappointed if you didn't. Tasha didn't wait to find out. She was able to stay awake long enough to examine the elegant cameras, no larger than the little chalk boxes used on pool sticks. Brody found 2 in her bedroom, 1 hidden on a picture frame and 1 under a bookshelf, but none in the bathroom. Why? She asked him. I mean, I'm glad, but why? No idea. Maybe the sight of naked people offends them. Under her stare, he relented. We think it has to do with all the tiles in most bathrooms and the plumbing. Not sure just how. You can get cameras similar to these in electronic stores, and they work most anywhere. But these are a lot more sophisticated than what the average consumer finds. Sometimes being more sophisticated is a weakness, not a strength. Tasha handed the camera back to him. Were they listening? We think so, but everything's been deactivated now, I swear. In that case, I think I'll take a nap. Help yourself to whatever's in the fridge. There are a few takeout menus in the drawer by the stove. Most from places open on Sundays. Just buzz the security desk if you're expecting a delivery. Got it. He eased out of the bedroom. Rest as long as you need to. I'll be here when you wake up. Thanks. Tasha thought it was rather remarkable that she felt comfortable enough to go to sleep with a relative stranger in the apartment. Then again, she was pretty sure she knew John Brody a lot better than she would ever know most anyone else in her life. Deciding to think about that later, she pushed the door to, but didn't close it completely, shed her clothes and pulled on a comfortable sleep shirt and crawled into bed. There were naps, and then there were naps. So you're in? Murphy asked when she checked in with Brody a bit after noon. I'm in. It was difficult to read nuances over cell phones sometimes, but that was brief even for you, she observed. Nothing else to say. Yet, at any rate, they had planted cameras in the apartment. I disabled them. And Solomon's asleep? Yep. Hadn't been sleeping much, I gather. Not a surprise. No. She had worked with Brody for years, and aside from her extra senses, Murphy was also highly intuitive when it came to people. So she knew he was bothered by something. And in their world, being bothered by something was seldom a matter best kept to oneself. What happened? She asked bluntly. Something out of the ordinary, I'm guessing. He was silent just long enough to make it obvious, then said slowly, she needed to read me to know she could trust me. Yeah, we both knew she would, and she's powerful. Read deep, and I mean deep, quick, thorough. Even touched a few places I don't believe any of our psychics have touched before. He didn't explain that intriguing bit, just continued in a voice just the side of grim. But then something else happened. What? I'm not quite sure. It was almost like she was in my mind, but somewhere else as well, almost like she went through a doorway and into a dark place where I couldn't see or sense her. That's never happened before when I'm being read or scanned. She wasn't still there in your mind? I honestly don't know. For a while, I couldn't sense anything. Then I got the strong feeling she was in trouble. And somehow, I was able to find her, reach her, hold on to her. After a moment, Murphy said slowly, a few psychics have reported that when they dropped their shields and read one of our guardians initially, they were pulled deeper, seemingly by a third party, into some kind of dark maze. That's the first I've heard of it. Well, it's never happened with you before, right? So there was no reason for you to know, especially since we don't know what it means. The few psychics reporting that said it wasn't really a big maze, but a dark one, and that they felt compelled to follow a voice urging them toward the center of the maze. One of Duran's psychics? It seems to be the consensus. One of his testing one of the psychics we find early on before our psychics know they can trust us. Almost like they were given a choice. Trust us or go over to the dark side. Brody didn't appear to find that melodramatic. In fact, he sounded grim when he said, not being psychic has its disadvantages. Still, I can sense a psychic when I'm being read or scanned, at least as far as I know. So why didn't I know someone else was there? Not sure. Does Tasha know? think she knows something, but there hasn't been a chance to discuss it. She came out of it trusting you? Yeah, I'm sure of that, but it drained her and she was pretty out of it. She did say something about Pathways and Duran not being pleased. Nobody's ever been able to read Duran. I know that. Think she did? No, I think it was something else. Something to do with the other psychic apparently communicating with her. I'm hoping Tasha will be a lot clearer-minded when she wakes up. If she knows something helpful, I hope she is too. I'll let you know. A little amused despite everything, Murphy said, well, since you're there, I think I'll take a nap myself. And I'll keep watch over the exterior of her building tonight while you do your guardian thing. I didn't say I'd be here tonight. No, you didn't. Then again,